The angry writers at the New York Times
That is one big pile of shit.
have taken aim at a show on Daily Wire's new children's platform called Benki.
As a parent, the fact that you pissed them off, I'm going to subscribe right now. I want some conservative media for my kids.
What has shocked these New York Times writers, you might be asking? Well, they're shocked by present fathers and a healthy family unit, which is on display in one of Benki's shows.
I miss the old days that I can just put my kids behind the TV, I go make some food in the kitchen, and when I come back, at least I can be like, oh, you're watching that? That's kinda cool. I miss saying that.
So End Wokeness first posted this on X. This was where I first saw any kind of sign of this article. They said, the New York Times is mad at Benki's Chipchilla, that's the name of the show, because the dad homeschools and teaches his kids about dead white people, literally. By the way, those dead white people are George Washington, Neil Armstrong, Ben Franklin, etc. They're also fuming that the show has a father figure play the central role. Disgusting! You genuinely cannot make this stuff up.
I'm a father that homeschool half my kids at home, right?
They are literally pulling problems out of thin air. They are upset because there is a father that is present in a children's show about a family.
Well, that was anticlimactic.
If that is not the perfect example of your problems don't exist, so you are creating them, I don't know what is. One guy commented and said, going to show this to my kids ASAP. Literally, yes. If the New York Times is upset about a children's show, you probably should show it to your kids. You should do the exact opposite of what they are recommending. Also, again, it's called Chipchilla. You should absolutely watch it. I make a cameo in it. It's super cute. It's very fun. Another guy said, 2 things Marxists hate: history and a strong family unit. Truly. Another person said, they are afraid of families homeschooling their children because the kids might learn the truth, because they might get out of America's indoctrination system, also known as the Department of Education. And they're afraid that they might learn the truth, like the fact that white people aren't inherently evil.
Just like going to the gym, you're supporting white supremacy.
An article recently came out and it says the white supremacist origins of exercising. What do you think about that headline?
It's full
And that white men have contributed good things to society, whether you like it or not. That is the truth. Another person said, whatever the New York Times is upset about, keep doing it, 100%. I was also thinking, this is so absurd. They can't really be upset at fathers. They are.
Well, I don't know what I expected.
Nothing should surprise me anymore. So here's what the article titled, The Fantasy of the Fun TV Dad has to say. They said, with Chipchilla, conservative parents can fulfill a fantasy of their own, combating the perceived indoctrination of public school by screening homeschool-themed content afterward, featuring lessons about dead white people and classic texts. In Bluey, that's the other show that they brought up, the puppies lead the games. But in Chipchilla, it is the dad who is in charge, directing his compliant kids to roleplay Moby Dick in the fall of the Roman Empire. I suspect that Benki made Chum Chum the school teacher not because it's a modern choice, but because it puts male authority at the center of the show. What a paragraph. Fulfill a fantasy.
By the way, they also hated Bluey. You know why? Because the kids were leading the show and they had magical houses and magical IDs. Oh my god, you're making poor kids sad. I'm like, what the heck do you want?
Put a chick in it, make her gay.
Fulfill a fantasy of their own, combating the perceived indoctrination. There's no perceived indoctrination. There literally is indoctrination in American public schools. That's a fact. That's not some made-up thing we're all guessing about. We know that. There's a reason why people are homeschooling in numbers we have never seen before. It also cracks me up because I thought the left was all about men in the home.
And that is the only thing I'm thankful about COVID, because the fact that I had to do everything on a Zoom call and parents were like, what the heck did that teacher say?
Like men stepping up so the girl bosses could go slay at work, switching up gender norms.
Slay!
But then when conservatives promote the importance of fathers, it's inherently bad. It's something sinister. Do you want fathers to be at home teaching their kids, interacting with their kids, or do you not? Or do you really just care about who is promoting it?
You kids, you wake up offended.
Back to the revolutionary concept that the dad is in charge and that in Chipchilla, the parents actually lead the children rather than the other way around, which now seems to be the norm in modern entertainment and in real life because millennials seem to have this aversion to leading their children and instead opt into iPad parenting and letting their kids captain the ship, aka just walk over parents and authority figures. I mean, we have heard the insane stories of teachers teaching millennials children, aka, Gen Alpha. That's a whole other tangent. I just did an episode about iPad kids, so if you want to learn more about that and what millennial parents are doing instead of being involved with their children.
That's why my second name is TikTok, YouTube, Instagram.
The other thing we have to touch on is her comment about lessons about dead white people. Is that seriously a bad thing? We can't even talk about white people that are not even alive. Classic texts like Moby Dick, texts about the Roman Empire, those are inherently bad just because white men are involved. It's baffling how logically they get to this point. Incredibly important things in history, incredibly important figures in history. Oh, it's so awful that they're teaching these just because they're white? How about we dumb down our kids so much so that they have no concept about the modern or ancient world and they can't read the scary classic texts because they are too philosophical, too coherent, and too educational. That sounds like a recipe for success, New York Times. The author, by the way, her name is Amanda, is as white as they come. It is truly comical. Like, you are really trying to erase yourself from history. The self-loathing, the self-hatred is nauseating. And then, of course, God forbid, we have present engaged fathers to lead the children and guide them through life's lessons.
If I hate myself that much, I'm indoctrinated. That means I'm a minority and I'm a protective class. Why not you?
But the fact that that is what Amanda gets hung up on is insane.
Try thinking first before you open your mouth.
It's not like we have a fatherlessness crisis in our society and that single mother homes are often disastrous for children with the highest levels of runaways and juvenile delinquents. Definitely not happening. Obviously not. Pointing that out would make way too much sense. In reading through more of this piece, the author continued to note that while the father figures in both shows are oddly present and involved, so weird that fathers are involved in their children's lives, it is also just a fantasy. In another paragraph, she said, it's typical in children's stories for parental figures to be obscured or even absent, especially the mothers. The Disney movies I grew up on, The Little Mermaid, The Lion King, featured authoritarian fathers who, following the untimely death of their wives, ruled their children from a distance while outsourcing their child care to a crab or a bird. My son's favorite show is not Bluey, but Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, in which Mickey's parentage is irrelevant. He is a godlike figure who answers to no one. That is a fantasy for children. Total parent obsolescence.
Oh my God. Are you telling people that, hey, being in a single family, it's the best thing in the world? It has to be absence. I want to be free. And then I want to tell them I didn't choose to be born. So, hey, you're the slave, not me. You listen to me, or you're a bad parent. Hey, yo, what the But then again, when they be the real model, you hate it. When they're gone, you love it. A mistake happens, you hate it. I'm like, everything leads to hate. Why?
I can think of no worse punishment for a child than to live in a world with no parents. In fact, thinking back to my childhood, I believe that total parental obsolescence is a child's greatest fear. We spend our early years panicking when we can't find our parents. We need them. There's a reason you're out shopping. You might go to PetSmart and you see a child hysterically sobbing and crying because they can't see their mom who's on the aisle over.
And I could not see my mom because they told me mommy is in heaven. I've never had somebody that supported me, consistently loved me, defended me, but I did have a father that guided me, showed me what he can do, and when things are needed, like a female role model, he just became the female role model at the same time. He didn't meet a random lady, put it in the house, bada bim bam boom. No, it was too important for him to be a good role model so I can reflect on him, even if I hated him in the beginning a little because I thought it was unfair that he was hard on me. It was a good thing because I was consistent. I have 2 kids, I have a wife, I have a house. I never had funky like a crazy person because my father said had a random baby will ruin your life. I studied and I have a little baby right here that's laughing at me because he doesn't even understand that I'm a little emotional because he has never seen me angry in front of him because I always was a responsible father.
That is instinctual. That's not a fantasy. Not to mention, this parental absence is not something that we should be communicating to young children. I don't think it's a win that your child's favorite show is one where you just don't exist. But of course, the left hates the family unit, so it's no surprise that this is their idea of fantasy.
Yeah, they want woman empowerment. We have no mistake. We have no weaks. We're all freaking strong. Nobody is weaker than the other. No, everybody's super strong. MCU.
Imagine being accused of being an attentive father as if it was a bad thing. Another person said, strong male role models that kids can look up to. It's like they know exactly what single most important ingredient they can take out of culture to destroy the culture. There's a video format that's going viral on TikTok right now. I don't know if it's going viral, but it's just being used a lot. And it's the stat about faith in the home. And a lot of Christians that I follow on social media are posting this stat, talking about it in conjunction to their family. But the stat is that if a mother comes to faith, the children are far less likely to follow. The family will not, be religious. But if a father comes to faith, it's something like that number triples. Like the children are far more likely to follow. They're far more interested in following their father. The wife will get on board. And all of that just reminds me of this comment right here. They know that fathers are important. They know that strong male role models are instrumental to children's success and to their well-being. Obviously, they hate it.
Well, now that makes me happy. Hey, Jesus, hallelujah. Which brings me to the point. I've been dating my wife for 10 years. I always went to church. I never told her, come with me at church. When I was half drunk, I went to the church and she thought, he's always happy when he comes back. And after 10 years together, she decided, hey, I want to try this stuff out.
Jeremy Boring was obviously mentioned in this article since he's the executive producer of Chipchilla, since he created Benki, and he just had a great response to this on X. We're going to read the whole thing. He said, there are two kids shows that stand out to the New York Times as problematic. Benki's Chipchilla and Bluey. And what's so problematic? Weirdly present fathers. Both fathers are derided as a fantasy for being so active and engaged with their children. But according to the New York Times, Chipchilla is the far more offensive of the two because Chum Chum teaches lessons about dead white people, George Washington, Ben Franklin, Neil Armstrong, etc., and leads his kids in fun games and lessons as a way of establishing male authority, aka being a parent. Shocking, New York Times. That's what you do. If you are a parent, you establish authority. Chipchilla is the most popular show on our new Benki platform, and Bluey is the most popular children's show, period. It is no coincidence that two shows that feature loving, engaged, nuclear families with great values who actually enjoy being together are so popular. And it's no coincidence that the cultural gatekeepers at the New York Times have them both in their crosshairs. The left not only wants to add its racial agenda to kids' entertainment, they want to remove good values from kids' entertainment. Our culture has fallen so far, and at times it might seem hopeless. Benki isn't anywhere near the level of size and influence of the New York Times and the Disneys of the world, but we created it because we have hope and we believe our best days are ahead of us, and that the only way we can take back the culture from the left is by building something better. And I love that he ended on that note. One of my favorite things about Jeremy, and guys, I work with him very closely. I love him to death. By default, one of the things that I love about Daily Wire and now Benki is Jeremy's relentless positivity and innovation. This entire New York Times article reminds me of a whole other topic we talked about a few months ago when we did a story on TV dads and talked about how in shows growing up, dads were always portrayed as being aloof or just plain stupid, especially on kids' channels and in shows that Disney and Nickelodeon were producing. Through these shows, we were taught to look down on our fathers and see them as ridiculous, and children were encouraged to totally reject parental authority. And obviously, that has taken a toll on our culture, and it has become the norm.
I mean, when I was growing up in the 80s, 90s, there were only two great fathers that I saw, and they were black to me. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Bill Cosby. Because at least they had the balls on the show to tell their kids, hey, I'm the father, this is the reason, be careful, and I need you to respect these decisions because on the long-term journey, if you're consistent, it will help you.
Now contrast that with shows like Bluey and Benki's Chipchilla, which refreshingly showcase fathers and parents in a positive light. We've apparently fallen so far that is now reason to criticize or fear a piece of content. No wonder the younger generations are struggling.
Instead of working on the role model of good father so people can copy and try to become that person, they're like, no, that's kind of too negative. Let's role model single parents household, kids that can do whatever they want because it's easier to make them happy, and if more people see that, at least, hey, we can help them by taking your tax dollars and fund it to the Family Value Team ministry or whatever. And then when you go there, hey, can you help me with my kids? Well, are you divorced? No. Well, we need to keep helping the more unfortunate. No. And we're gonna lift them up. See? We help them. Wait. This is the new normal. Man, palagi na. Well, normalize liking this video, sharing the video so more people can see what the heck is happening in this society.